Michael Jordan and the Bulls changed the culture.
Dennis gave us that edge on the front line.
We were winning.
Congratulations.
Kiss the trophy.
Yeah.
Jerry Krause said, we're dismantling this team. I never saw it ending like that.
This about to be on.
I let my anger motivate the players.
What's up?
The Last Dance is a 10-part documentary, 10-part docu-series, I guess you could call it. It was originally on ESPN when it aired, but it was a dual production with between ESPN and Netflix, so it is currently streaming on Netflix, which is where we all saw it. I'm assuming none of us watched it on ESPN.
Nope. I saw 9 out of 10 on ESPN.
Really?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh. Well, never
mind.
Well,
look at you. Derailing Hooper's point.
Yeah, there we
None of us watch ESPN. I do.
This is directed by Jason Hehir. Jason H. directed this documentary, and it's about the Last Dance was I guess you could call it the code name, the secret name, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I'm drawing a blank on the actual word for this. The name for the final season of the Chicago Bulls, with Phil Jackson as the head coach and Michael Jordan on the team and Scottie Pippen, and it was called The Last Dance because that's when the Chicago Bulls ownership, with Jerry Reinsdorf and he was the owner, and then Jerry Krause, the general manager, deciding that doesn't matter how many championships this team and these players and this coach has won us, we are pulling the plug on Phil Jackson as the coach at the end of the 1998 season, or the 1997-1998 season, and so it's called The Last Dance internally. So it's about that season, but it's really about if you were to tell someone on the street, you wouldn't just give them the whole spiel. It's like, oh, it's the Michael Jordan documentary. That's what you would call it colloquially. But it's not just about Jordan. It's about all those guys. It's about Steve Kerr and Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, what's his name? Tony Kukoc, and a lot of the other players who were in the NBA at the time. There's a lot of people. This little ditty here says there's over 100 interviews in this series. Wow. Yeah, with coaches, owners, other coaches, family members, and it spans
presidents.
Presidents. Yeah. That's correct. 2 presidents. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's I'll go ahead and give my rating on this. Because I'm just before I go any further, if it's not evident I guess it's not evident. All right, go me. All right. I give this 5 stars. I loved this series. I couldn't stop watching it. Every night when I would be finished with everything with the house and I'd be like, okay, I got this giant book I got from the library and I want to really try and make some headway with it. I kept thinking, I really want to watch the next episode of The Last Dance. And It's rare for me, even with things that I do enjoy, to not treat them as like all right, I'll chip away at that thing, but The Last Dance was like, I genuinely want to watch the next episode, and every minute I'm watching it, I'm amazed, or I'm informed, or I'm surprised, or I'm entertained. This documentary really has everything. And especially if you don't know all these details already, and even if you do, there's a lot of behind the scenes footage that you've never seen because Jordan owned the footage, I think, and he had exclusively had the rights to when these people got to use it. And so this is footage no one has seen before this film came out. And a lot of interviews obviously had never been seen, a lot of stories, a lot of perspectives, and it's just presented masterfully. And the idea that this documentary was already going to be coming out, I think, when was this? It was in like March, I think, is when it started coming out. John, do you remember? I remember it was during the pandemic. And one of the reasons it came out was, I think it was not supposed to come out till a little later, but they released it because there was no sports on. And they were like, let's go ahead and start getting the Jordan documentary out. And they weren't finished with like the back half or whatever of it. So like they went ahead like a TV show in production, and they're just like, all right, the first 5 are in the can and the other ones were pretty far along. And they went ahead and started releasing them every like Sunday night, I think it was. And so I would hear about them on the radio the next day on Dan Patrick, just talking about it. But, just to hear it talked about, but not having seen it, I had no frame of reference. The only thing that I thought of that they said on Dan Patrick when I was actually watching the documentary was the idea that since Jerry Krause is deceased, he can't defend himself or his perspective about the decisions he made as the general manager, because he's not painted in a particularly great light in the documentary. And all I remember thinking was, oh yeah, they mentioned how they're not going to comment on it because he's one of the only people in the film who's not there to give an interview. But Reinsdorf is there. Jordan obviously is there. Scottie Pippen is there. Almost everyone who's featured in the documentary is interviewed for the documentary, except for...
Although not everybody's a fan of the documentary.
Scottie
Pippen has said he does not like the way it came out.
Really?
Yeah, he didn't like his characterization in the documentary. So, and I think Dennis Rodman like came out and was like, "Yeah, I support him, Scotty," and so yeah, it's weird.
I didn't know anything about that, really.
Yeah. Evidently, he didn't find it super flattering, which I guess makes sense, but yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's weird because I think about the other people featured, and it's like, would they think that they were fairly treated? But I think Michael Jordan...
That was one of the things I liked about it best, though, is it really didn't try to highlight anyone as like a hero necessarily.
Right.
It really
not even
humanized
Michael.
Everybody,
Yeah, it's weird. The impression that I got after watching of Michael as a person was probably he wasn't super fun to be around.
Right.
Probably he was kind of a bully, and I think Steve Kerr called him a bully. Like, he's kind of a bully, and he wanted perfection, and he tried to get it always in every facet. And so he's probably not the coolest guy just to hang out with. But yeah, so I would agree. I think the film's pretty fair.
Yeah.
What
I mean, I think like I knew a lot about like the perception of Michael Jordan before I watched this. I knew kind of like how he handled himself around the rest of the team and how he saw himself. And obviously he gave that like famous Hall of Fame speech when he got inducted into the Hall of Fame. That was like, it was very blunt. And this I'm glad that the documentary didn't try to sugarcoat anything like that, because that's who he is. He lets that sort of stuff drive him. So I'm glad that they didn't hide the fact that he was, very determined to win, and that was his priority. It wasn't being nice or,
Yeah, exactly. And I'm with you, Hooper. I really enjoyed it, and I found myself binging it. Like, just I had to keep going, and partially like that's just good documentary filmmaking, is to keep that burning question going. So what they did that was so beautiful was now they could have told this story chronologically and said like, here's Michael as a kid, here's Rodman as a kid, and they could have done that and then progressed up to The Last Dance, but that's not as effective. So by having this final season peppered in throughout every episode where we're going back and forth, the burning question remains of what happens that final season. Now, we were all growing up in the 90s. Like I'm sure you guys to some extent had about as much impact or like awareness of what the Bulls were doing as everybody else did in the 90s. But I specifically could not remember if they won that last ring.
I couldn't remember either. I was pretty sure that they did, because I just remember 1998 being such a big year in like sports media. I mean, I remember Nickelodeon magazine had Jordan on the cover, and I remember specifically it was 1998 because that's one of those issues I inexplicably kept for like a bunch of years, and I think I had a shirt for the 1998 championship. So I was like, I'm pretty sure they win this, but I don't know though. I'm not positive.
Yeah, I was like 90% sure, but I specifically like did not do any wiki searches while I was watching, because I was like this is the burning question, and regardless, I think even if you were like 100% sure of what the outcome was going to be, I think the question remains, like, how did it happen? What are we watching unfold here? And that's enough to keep you going.
Did it change? And did it change any minds upstairs? Like,
Sure.
them winning the victory, winning a championship or not, would that change the mind? Would Jerry Krause and Jerry Reinsdorf say, "Oh, never mind, we want to get this person back"? Like, "Oh, we changed our minds." And what does that say about the organization or the whole, give and take player owner relationship in sports?
Yeah.
What was your star rating, Dustin?
Oh, 5 stars.
John, what about you?
I'd also give it 5. Yep.
Yeah. I think what struck me,
and it's kind of like what Dustin was saying. I really liked how they jumped back and forth, because even the more mundane things, like earlier on in the season when they were just starting off, that had so much more weight, because they always focused on like what that player or whoever coach, what could have been going through their mind in that moment based on what we saw in the kind of archival footage, or so that was really, really,
I'm thinking specifically of Steve Kerr's story about his dad, because all this stuff you just don't know. You're like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Oh no, like that. Their personal stories, what their motivations, their business decisions, and how the team reacts to them, especially Scottie Pippen. I really enjoyed the look at Dennis Rodman and how he was perceived by the team. As much as we knew Dennis Rodman as like this wild dude, and certainly portrayed that way, in any media coverage, how he was viewed by those people who were closest to him, which was essentially like, yeah, he's a crazy dude, but if we don't let him be a crazy dude, he's gonna be a worse basketball player.
That's the way he functions.
That's what he needs to be able to be a good teammate.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like they showered Dennis Rodman with praise in this thing overall. I mean, anything that they said about him that was remotely negative was something that was like indisputable. Like, no, you did go to Las Vegas during the series. It's not like that didn't happen and they made it up,
Right. And what was great is, like, I felt like anytime they threw any shade at Rodman, they would just cut to an interview of Rodman just going like, "Oh yeah, I did that, yeah." And like he just doesn't care. He's just like, whatever.
It's
whatever.
true.
I am me. Yeah.
I also liked it too, because Rodman is typically kind of left out of that. Like, everyone knows Jordan and Pippen, right? Yeah. And Rodman was so essential to that team, but he doesn't always get he's known more for his persona than he is as a basketball player.
I
unfortunately,
remember being in elementary school and playing basketball, and like we would be like, "I'm going to be Michael Jordan," and like you would, I don't know, pretend you were that person while you were playing basketball, right? And no one wanted to be Rodman.
Oh man!
Like I remember people being like, "All right, you're going to be Dennis Rodman," and be like, "I don't want to be Dennis Rodman." And, like, everybody was like, they didn't want any part of it.
Did you guys ever play like NBA Jam for like the Sega?
No.
Yeah, I didn't have it, but my neighbor had it.
You can like obviously, like, it had the license to use all these characters, all the players. But like, Dennis Rodman was notable in the game because you could change his hair color.
Yeah.
Like, that was why he was notable. So it's like great seeing, like, because he was so essential to the fabric of that team, and it was great. Also, like, speaking of like Rodman and Tony Kukoc and some of these other players that would come into focus later on, but you saw them, earlier on in the documentary as like people that the Bulls were facing off against years before.
Yep.
So it was great, kind of like, oh, there they are again, and this time they're involved with the Bulls, and so that was like, it was kind of like a full circle thing. So that was neat.
Yeah, even seeing Dennis Rodman that way.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I think what struck me about this was because, I'd heard about the documentary. I knew it was good, and I knew I was like, okay, I want to be able to watch this at some point. whenever, while it was being released, I was thinking, okay, this seems like something worth checking out. And then I think one of you guys in our group text said, like, has anyone been watching The Last Dance? And then the other one said, yeah, man, I'm like halfway through. I love it. And the other one was like, yeah, me too. And I was like, I should get on this because we're not all, the three of us, to me at least, we're not exactly known for our attention to the wide world of sports. Yeah. So it was really strange to me that independently we were all circling the drain on this movie, and then you two had actually already begun watching it.
It's Jordan, man. I knew as soon as I heard about it, I was like, I have to watch this. Again, we grew up in a time where Jordan that's what we talked about at school. That's what we talked about with our friends. And like, he was bigger than basketball. And like, I didn't play basketball until later. But I specifically played basketball because of Michael Jordan. And it was just very much a part of growing up. Like, I came across this thing the other day. My parents gave me some boxes of stuff that I had when I was a kid. And in one of them was a lanyard with a photo, like an autographed photo of Michael Jordan. And it's like a reproduction. It's not an actual autograph. But I specifically
and now I'm a millionaire.
I know, right? And now I never work again. And I quit this show. I specifically remember my dad coming in with that and being like, hey buddy, like I got this thing, and he showed it to me, and he was like, do you want it? And I was like, yes. And I was like, where did you get it? And he told me he actually had Michael sign it because he ran into him at the gas station. And I remember being like, we have to go back to the gas station right now. Like flipping out. I was like, we have to go meet him. And and then tack on Space Jam, and like the fact that I was rocking that soundtrack for ages, and I took the VHS, my VHS tape of Space Jam to school just to show people that I got it. And like it was, I knew, like, as soon as this doc was coming out, I was like, that's one I'm watching.
I was too afraid to do stuff like that. I was too afraid to show people like, oh, I love Space Jam, which I should have. Many regrets I have growing up that are in no way stuck in my head somehow. I did have the jersey. I had the jersey and the shorts, the Toon Squad.
The Toon Squad?
Yeah, oh, cool. Man. Yeah.
I have a jersey now, actually, and it's reversible. It has the Monstars on the other side.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I had the Space Jam ones, but I think I also had a Pippen jersey when I was a kid, because I was always like, this dude never gets enough credit.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I remember when the flu game was on.
Tall.
I remember like when that happened when I was a kid, and so I think I watch basketball now. Like, obviously, the NBA, the championships are going on right now and everything. But
in Orlando,
yeah. And but I remember, like, as a kid, it was like Space Jam and all that sort of stuff kind of got me into it. But I was like very into basketball as a kid, and so it was like a great way to kind of tap into nostalgia while also giving me a side of it that obviously as a kid you don't know the backstories of what's happening, and kind of the politics of it and things like that. So it was great to see all that footage, because it was just like lightning in a bottle that they happened to film that entire season, even things that they probably didn't really think mattered at the time, just kind of like them bullshitting in the locker room and stuff. But that's really kind of the meat of what it is, because it does humanize every person in that docuseries. So yeah, man. And it was very emotional at the end, like when they did win, and they were in the locker room and they were all like popping the champagne bottles and stuff. It was like you'd gone on this journey with them, and it was like a well-deserved win, and you knew it was coming to an end, right? So it was great seeing the entire journey.
Dude, I got choked up like 5 times during the course of these 10 episodes.
Yeah.
The biggest one was the first championship. And like and Michael's there like crying over the ball, and his dad's beside him, and I was like, oh God, oh my God. I was just like, I was bawling like a baby. Not really. Internally I was. Yeah. And
don't bawl like a baby.
No.
It's so loud. That's unnecessary. You don't need to do that.
But it was
Yeah.
you're right. It was touching. It was funny.
Yeah.
It's a great doc. Like
Yeah.
you
It's a
learn
good
a lot
time.
about these people that you don't know. Like you're right. Like so I had a big Michael Jordan poster on my wall from the slam dunk contest, and like I specifically remember that poster. I remember like just loving the heck out of that poster, and like, but I didn't know Michael. Like I knew that he was the greatest basketball player that ever lived, and I knew of him,
Yeah,
but
you
I didn't
knew the
know
idea
any.
of Michael Jordan.
Yeah, you knew
Yeah,
the image. That
Yeah, I
was
knew
kind
the
of
image that
projected.
he
Yeah.
spent so much time cultivating. I didn't
Yeah.
know anything about him.
You know, he's doing that commercial where he's like, people think they know Michael Jordan, but they don't know the real Michael Jordan. He's talking to
Yeah.
you, Dustin.
He was talking directly to me.
Especially Dustin Weldon.
Yeah,
He doesn't
especially
know
Dustin.
me.
Did you even
You
know my
phony.
dad? Did you even know about my dad? And I'm like, no, I didn't. I'm so
No,
sorry. I didn't know anything.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, does anybody have any closing thoughts about The Last Dance other than what we just
Watch
said?
it.
Yeah, watch it.
Definitely watch it. Yeah. One more thought though.
Oh, sure.
I will say too, like another person who doesn't get enough credit on that side of it is Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he also was like a very prominent figure in that whole thing because it's easy to kind of discount the coach as well. So
Yeah.
it was great. Like him and Michael's interaction at the very end was great. And so
Yep.
yeah.
I think they did they tried to, even Jerry Krause, like I said, he couldn't defend himself in the documentary, but even other people said like, he was doing his job, or, I still, his flaws are put out there very, very much. And, I'm sure if he had been alive, he would have had something to say. Like maybe he would have said, yeah, I was completely insecure and really was fixated on getting the credit for these championships or these acquisitions and stuff, where it's, when you are the general manager, like that kind of is how you show your value to your bosses. Like, hey, I secured Scottie Pippen for 10 years at this price point.
Right.
Look how much money I'm saving the organization and how much value we're getting out of it. So like as cold and as clinical as it seems, like that's his whole job is to secure players and assets for the organization, even though, it's a lot less cool or fun or glamorous or even, admirable. But, then again, there are decisions he made where it's just kind of like, come on, dude. Like, why don't you want Phil Jackson to keep coaching the team? Like, what's the problem?
Right.
So
I feel like they went really hard on him in the first episode, and then it kind of leveled off. Like,
Yeah.
there was like
Yeah,
that bit where Jordan was making fun of his height and things like that, and
Boy.
I was like, oh god, this is going to be like a recurring thing throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it really kind of, after that moment, it was more like he's making bad business decisions as opposed to like we don't like him and we
Yeah.
don't respect him type of thing. So
Yeah.
right.